Hey guys, so today I want to talk about getting better connection with the floor in our golf swing. So oftentimes what I see with a lot of golfers that live in ER, basically they have the inability to keep pressure between the feet. As a result, they have a hard time keeping the big toe down, taking the club back. So what they do is push pressure outside the feet too early in the swing, which robs them of loading, and then the mirror image coming back through the ball is often some type of lumbar extension to finish the swing. So if you think about the feet provide basically like a dam, keeping pressure inside, which is what we want. So when we are able to manage the center of pressure, we can manage our center of gravity better. It's gonna allow us to almost create like a skewer effect. So kind of keeping everything into the floor and spinning on a nice neutral axis. Oftentimes what happens for rotational athletes is we tend to live in different phases of gait in our feet. So even though we're standing neutral, a lot of righties will be heavier in their right heel, heavier in their left toe. So that biases and puts the body in a spin to begin with. And that makes it harder to rotate on an axis because forces are not balanced from left side to right side. So the goal today is kind of teaching some drills that are going to help maintain better IR strategies at the ground to create more downforce. Like I said, this is going to help for those that have to get more vertical because they can't keep pressure between the feet, creating almost like a suction cup / plunger effect into the floor. So 3 drills you can kind of use either prior to hitting balls or just even prior to warming up in the gym to start to get better IR at the hips, ankles, feet to help provide better mechanics for your swing. Okay, so first drill, I recommend taking the shoe socks off. What this is going to start to do is help turn on the arches, kind of big toes, to be able to get better suction into the floor. I like to do this up against the wall rack to kind of keep the ball in a nice neutral place. But what it does is, because the ball has give to it, and then using a table that has give, it allows our hands and feet to start to create like a suction action to have something to move off of. I feel like what that does is neurologically turn everything on a little bit better. And our goal here is to start to turn on the arches and then actually feel where the hamstrings meet the glutes, where your back pocket would be. So what I have you guys do is I want to start. I want to find like the big toe, heel down on the ball. I want to feel like the inside edges of my feet. I want to imagine almost if like I had a pimple between my feet, that slight squeeze in and down. Goal on here is I want to think about where the wall meets the table, and I'm basically trying to push the ball down. So I want to keep those toes active, and I'm more concerned about the down force than I am moving forward. So first thing I'm going to do is I want to keep all the pressure locked in the body. So I'm going to start with the hands down, spread the fingers, thumbs, and I want to make sure index finger stays down on the table. I'm going to start by trying to expand rib cage 360. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set the pelvis. So I want to find that arch on the ball, slight press in, and an ever so slight tuck on that pelvis. And then I want to imagine I've got a dodgeball between the knees. So I'm going to inhale, hands are pressing into the table as well as the arches. On the exhale, I'm going to press the arches in and the knees in and think about pressing down. So I'd say try rolling about 5 breaths. Second round, I'm going to have you guys come in a little closer to the ball. Feet are going to come up a little higher. Same setup, I want to push into the table, slight tuck in that pelvis, and then I want to think about I'm actually using the big toes to press it down and pull the ball closer to my back pocket. So now the ball is slightly off the rack. and I'm getting that pressure in. But if it's too difficult in the beginning, I recommend, let's just say 3 rounds of 30 seconds or 4 or 5 breaths with the ball on the rack. Little by little, you can actually push the ball down and pull it off the wall. And what that's going to do is create more hamstring force, start to turn everything on a little. Okay, so second drill, we're gonna do some hamstring drills. Once again, I like the table because it's got the give with the ball. So all of it is just kind of forcing everything to turn on a little bit better. So I wanna set up on here, think about inside edge of the heels and big toes kind of staying together. I wanna have the toes flex towards the knees, but I don't wanna lock out at the knees. So I'm getting those hands down in the table. First thing I want to do is vacuum seal inner thigh all the way to my arches. So I'm nice and slow. I'm thinking about pressing the ball down. I'm going to come in. When I come along, I want to think about I'm pressing my arches away and tuck the pelvis so I can get the glutes. A lot of people will finish here and they don't get along by squeezing high adductor to get the glutes to fire. So it's more about just going slow at this end range, starting to turn stuff on so that I can control where the hamstrings meet the glutes to have better control of the pelvis at the floor. So I'm gonna come in. And on this drill, it's more about trying to keep the ball pressing down as hard as you can with the legs versus how high you get. Little by little, you'll be able to get more reps in, but it's more about keeping everything from the arches up to the pelvis on while keeping the upper body connected to start to trap pressure inside the ribs and pelvis. What that'll do is create better activation. And little by little, we're starting to basically get the pelvis back in a better position, which is going to allow you to transfer that to your golf swing. So on this, just as many reps as you can of quality as far as being able to feel things. You feel yourself starting to cheat, just call it. All right, so this third drill, now that the adductors have been turned on as well as the hamstrings, we're going to work on actually getting the ribs to drop, almost creating like a syringe effect with the ribs and pelvis to get more force down, which is going to be in the wall in this drill. So for many guys, what they're going to tend to want to do, same thing they do in their swing, is the big toes almost tend to like Pac-Man. So oftentimes when I see this, it tends to be from a lack of internal rotation. So goal on here with the rollers, I want to keep the big toes almost like they're hog-tied so that I'm basically holding this arch, making sure that I've got a solid plunger effect into the wall. Otherwise, we end up kind of losing this with the big toe, and this is often what we see in Rob's people performance in their golf swing. They can't keep the big toes down, and as a result, it changes the pressure strategy in which they load their swing. So 12-inch box up against the wall, you can use a riser, half roller, and then something that you can squeeze into. So what you're gonna do on here is I want you to keep that arch, is holding that roller ball kind of between those thighs. First thing I want to do is find my arches. So I'm gonna give a slight squeeze on the arch, pressing through the big toe, inside edge of the heel, and then slight squeeze in the ball. And I want to get the pelvis a little bit of a tuck, almost as if like I was trying to squeeze a little bug right under the pelvis there. Next thing I want is I'm gonna keep those hands down. I'm gonna inhale, fill the chest. On the exhale, I'm gonna squeeze the roller as well as the ball slightly. I want an exhale for a 5 count to get all the air out, to get as much force with the feet through the wall as possible. So I'm gonna inhale. what I like to do on that is after the first or second breath where I can really feel everything turn on is start to try to squeeze the ball with each exhale a little bit harder. What you're gonna feel is better connection, easier time facilitating the ribs getting down, and you're gonna feel more force into the wall. But it's a great drill that you can do 3 rounds, 5 breaths. See what you think.